Welcome back to my Common Sense Living podcast, a journey of conversations and stories that will surely inspire you. Are you ready? Grab your favorite beverage, sit back, get a pen, take some notes, because we have a great guest today. I'm your host, Almarie Master. Let's get started with her introduction. She is Almarie Fernandez, and she was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, graduated from Tufts University. After struggling with her own health, she decided to continue her studies to turn her health around and earned her certification as an EMT, emergency medical technician. However, Almarie felt called into the wellness area, and she researched until she came across the field of functional medicine. Almarie has been involved in coaching since 2013 and has been a functional medicine practitioner since 2019. With a special interest in autoimmunity, environmental toxins, insulin resistance training, and the mind-body connection. She currently resides in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and enjoys meeting folks from all walks of life who are open to exploring how a functional medicine approach can help better their lives. So welcome, Almarie.
Thank you for having me, Anne.
My pleasure.
So this is a pleasure for me because I'm going to talk about a theme that happens every new year, and it's very dear to some of us, and some of us have struggled with this, and myself included, and it's the topic of weight gain and how to lose those pesky pounds.
Yeah.
So that is, and I can say that part of regaining my health during my health struggles, there was weight gain involved, significant weight gain. I personally gained up to 200 pounds 3 times.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I definitely can relate with folks that have those New Year's resolutions, and you know how frustrating it can be to have that extra weight. As we know, just having that weight increases the chances of having certain chronic diseases. So we don't want that. We want to ensure that we are on an ideal body weight. And so to give the body less stress. So I want to talk about weight gain in the fundamental concept. The body ironically views weight gain as something good. Yes, it does, because when there's stress involved, what happens is that basically the organs in your body, they're doing what they can to keep up with it. And so if you look at our ancestors, they had food readily available, but when there was time of famine or crisis, there was fat storage, because basically your body is gauging that it's in survival mode, so it stores as body fat. So your body sees it as something good. It's an evolutionary concept, but also many toxins are stored in body fat. So that's something that's the second reason why the body might see it as a good thing, because the body is saying, hey, we need to protect you. We don't know where to put these toxins, so we're going to accumulate it in the adipose tissue. So you have to view that your body's not against you. Body's always working for you. I don't believe in the concept, especially after going through my health struggles, I don't believe that the body is inherently broken. Even when there's a health diagnosis, the body is doing what it can with the information that it's been given.
Right.
So now we're going to talk about the topic of weight loss, and I hope that I can get everything covered, because this is a lengthy topic.
Well, if not, we'll just have you again.
Oh, yes, that would be great. So women in particular need to feel safe in their body. It's an evolutionary concept. In order to drop the weight, there has to be a sense of safety. And in order to convey that safety to the body, we need to make sure if we're going to have weight loss as a permanent and lasting, like, many people yo-yo diet and they lose and they gain and they lose and they gain. What happens is that the body when it's chronically, there's insufficient calories, when there's chronic stress, the body's going to set a set point, and it's going to be higher and higher each time. So we have to make sure that we are collaborating with the body so that the body feels safe. It goes to it. I'll talk in detail. 95% of weight gain, is hormone mediated. So it has to do a lot with your hormones, and it is driven by modern food or crap food, toxins, and stress. So what I want to preface that when we are dealing with weight loss, we want to make sure that we're not only implementing the steps so that it loses weight, but that the weight loss is final, because 80% of people regain their weight within 5 years.
Well,
So
why is that? Do we just go back to our habits and think we're okay now and it creeps up again?
yeah, it has to do with habit. It's like a combination of habits, but it's an environmental factor. Like the body's just doing what it's being told. If there's a lot of toxins and stress, and there's a lot of mental, emotional stress and physiological stress, like inflammation, it's like a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Inflammation drives body fat, and body fat drives inflammation.
Right. They work together, so to speak.
They work together. So the adipose tissue, it's sort of like its own organ.
Yeah.
It kind of has a mind of its own. It can produce estrogen on its own. And I'll talk more about estrogen dominance, but there's estrogen dominance coming from our environment, from the beauty products that we slather, from the food that's not organic, the food that's conventional, all the pesticides, all the herbicides, all these toxins. They're increasing estrogen in the body in the form of xenoestrogens, plastics, and so that's what's going into the receptors. And that's one of the factors that's driving belly fat. And then, but the belly fat also produces its own estrogen.
Oh, geez.
So it's like a vicious cycle. So I want to make sure this is going to be the last stop for you. I want to make sure that you start getting some real answers. So I worked in the fitness industry. It was a pleasure to work for the fitness industry for a while, and that's how I started getting introduced into the concept of health. But then I also, like you mentioned, I studied functional medicine, and I'm going to throw out some information, but then I'll try to simplify it. So there are 10 basic principles that everyone wants to consider for weight loss. One is calorie deficit. Number 2 is adequate protein intake. Number 3 is increasing fiber intake. Number 4 is regular exercise, especially strength training. Number 5, proper hydration. Number 6, sleep and recovery. 7, stress management. 8, mindful eating and portion control. 9, consistency over perfection. And number 10, track progress and set realistic goals. So I just want you to keep that in the back of everyone's mind that they're listening today. Those are the principles. Now, I think that the Eat Less, Move More initiative that was put forth in the Obama administration, I think that is an oversimplification. Because to restate what I said earlier, 95% of weight loss, of weight gain, is hormone mediated.
It's what you eat.
And it's driven by modern food, toxins, and stress. So there are 4 4 areas where people find there's weight loss resistance. I want you to keep those principles in mind because we're going to go back to them. But there are 4 basic areas why people are not seeing the progress they want. And this is where the Eat Less, Move More campaign falls short.
It's what you eat.
Yes, exactly. That is a big component.
I can eat less cookies. Oh, wow. But it doesn't make me lose the fat.
Exactly.
But if I'm eating a salad, you know, yeah, I can eat a lot of that. So yeah, it's what you eat.
You know very well, this is all about nutrient density and quality food.
Right, right. I've been an advocate for that for most all my life.
Because the body can see like there's 100 calories of broccoli and there's 100 calories of Oreos, but the body accesses, the body's able to use the broccoli for energy. The body's not really able to use the calories from the Oreos.
It stores it.
It stores it as body fat, and it doesn't, and more than that, it doesn't really know what to do with that. Yeah. It has chemicals and toxins and you know, I don't know if you saw online, like that you can burn an Oreo and it doesn't burn down.
That's a scary thought, isn't it?
That's a scary thought. Up to like they did the experiment from like a nanosecond up to like 30 seconds, and they put fire on that thing and it just doesn't burn.
Oh wow. So you know what it's not good. Oh yeah. Years ago I could put 3 rows of Oreos down. I just mindless eating. And in nursing school they asked us, this was like in the 80s, and there wasn't a lot of junk food at the time. And they said, what's more important, the brain or the gut? Well, we decided if your brain dead, nothing works. They knew then it was the gut, and that's what they disrupted with all this junk. And
absolutely. And the body needs to be in a state of homeostasis. Right. The body needs to, in order to convey that safety, and that like weight is a symptom that it's a reflection of other things happening in the body. So if, like you very well know, if you eat Oreos and you know you can't eat just one, then the body doesn't know what to do with it, and you're bypassing the mechanisms of satiety, and the body just doesn't know what to do with it.
So we have another fat cell. Yeah. And the fat cells don't really go away, do they? They just shrink up and go dormant. It
takes a lot to, like, fat cells, they continue growing. You know, there's a hypothesis of like turning white fat into brown fat, which is easier to burn. You know, but not all white fat will turn to brown fat. So, you know, there are specific foods that activate that path of like turning white fat into brown fat. It's not the only factor, but it helps, because when there's brown fat, it's easier for the body to let it go.
Right.
But I want to talk about hormonal imbalances, which is, I think it's the key why so many people are struggling with their weight. There are 4 hormone-mediated drivers of disease, and that is insulin resistance, hypothyroidism, sex hormone imbalances, and chronic stress. Those 4. So we talked earlier about the 10 principles that the fitness industry recognizes that take part in weight loss, but these are the 4 hormone imbalances that we see. In my experience, I do feel that if people focus specifically on insulin management and cortisol management, that really helps towards the weight loss effort. Because these hormones they're in a hormone soup, but they're not isolated. Like, they affect each other. Like, if there's too much cortisol, then the thyroid production slows down. Cortisol raises insulin. Estrogen receptors affect the thyroid hormone. So they're all circulating, affecting each other. Your body's trying to communicate. Every organ is trying to communicate, and they're just doing what they're being told. So I understand, and before diving into these like hormone imbalances, I understand that people want to lose weight and fast,
Mhm.
but the reality is, if, you know, for an event, or, you know, to be in a wedding, and they
Mhm.
don't, they almost don't care about their, like, the what's happening in the rest of the body. But if you don't pay attention to these 4 hormonal imbalances, then you're going to be repeating the same story. And the body, like I said, it has a set point for the weight. It's just
Mhm.
going to get higher and higher and higher if you force the body to lose weight. If you force the body to lose weight, you might lose the weight. That losing weight is really, it's hard. It's hard for some people, but it can be achieved. But if there is all this stuff happening that is sending the body into a spiral, you're going to get it back and then some.
Right. Right.
So I want to talk about specifically insulin and cortisol. I want you to keep in mind that managing insulin and cortisol really remedies a lot of the problems. And I'm going to use the principles that we talked about, because some of the information overlaps.
So the cortisol is stress?
Yes.
Okay. Stress
Yeah.
and sugar.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, crappy food is a big part of the problem. But I can say that when I struggle with weight, I can really empathize. Like, food was just part of the problem. Like, I had to learn, of course, how to eat and not self-medicate with food. That's something that people are doing. So I forgot to mention it almost, like, self-medicating with food is something that people need to be, that people do. A lot of people do. And I invite you, as you're taking this step to better health, because it's just better health. The steps that you're going to take for weight loss are what you do to take the weight off is what you're going to need to do to keep the weight off. So self-medicating with food, you have to get real and honest about the stress in your life and the sources of stress, and what us health coaches, what we call primary foods, which is what feeds your soul. Secondary foods are what's on your plate. Primary foods is what feeds your soul, the spirituality, your relationships, you know, how is your life going. So that's something that as you're doing the process, and you don't have to start with that, but if many people are self-medicating with food because they're trying to fill a void from their life, and nothing is going to fill that void. Nothing is going to fill, like, if you have a job that's not that doesn't bring you joy, if you don't have, if something wrong with a relationship, something wrong, broken with spirituality, you're not going to be able to replace that with food. Food is enjoyable, yes, but food is fuel. So you know, we want to see it as enjoyable fuel, but there are many people self-medicating with food.
I do biometric screenings, and there was this situation, this guy, his numbers were horrible. Cholesterol was so high, sugar, everything, and really good looking guy. And I said to him, I'd say, Almarie, you have a guy, so Tom, do you have a cool car? Yeah. I said, oh, I bet you wax it and wash it and it shines, it's beautiful. And I said, do you put the premium gas? And oh yeah, he's just beaming. I said, why don't you treat your car better than you do you? Your numbers are horrible. That car is going to outlive you. It's just like whoop, like I slapped him. But I made an impact. I made an impact because it's true. And
It is true.
we're just mindless with it and we don't realize it. But I thought I gave that guy a wake-up punch. I don't see people, again, I work for a company, you know, so I don't know whatever it came of it, but I thought I had to, you know, and I used to explain to people the way our bellies get fat is, oh, you keep eating the junk, and that's fat cell gets big, and now you have two. No, it's not. It's not quite like that, is it? It doesn't have a baby. It just makes another one. That one's full and it stays full, and now the body made another one. So now you're going to end up having two fat.
Yeah, the way I see it is that it just makes the problem worse. And I was actually talking about that the other day in my stories. I'm glad that you mentioned it. Like, you know, it's very interesting that us humans, when we see something wrong with our bodies, we don't do anything, or we try to remedy it on our own. And you know, and if you had your car flash check engine, you take it to the mechanic, and immediately, because without it, you cannot go to work, you cannot do anything.
Right.
You cannot bring the dough home. So, you know,
it's going to be sitting in its garage bed like you will when you're sick. You're in your
exactly.
bed. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
we treat our stuff better than we do ourselves.
no, I agree. Sometimes you have to go through pain to change. I had to go through pain to change. Like when I lost my health, I knew that I had a calling to help others, but I knew that like I needed to take care of my body, because if I don't take care of myself, then I can't take care of anyone.
Right. Yeah.
So going back to insulin and cortisol, and I'm going to, it kind of overlaps with the 10 basic principles that we spoke earlier, but we're going to talk about the four reasons why, the 4 drivers of hormone imbalances, of why people are complaining that they can't see weight loss. So for insulin escorts glucose into the cells. But while insulin's job is to take the glucose out of the blood and into your cells, it's also a fat storage hormone, which is why so many people are having problems losing weight. And then they develop insulin resistance when the organs get tired, and the pancreas starts secreting insulin, and the body becomes less insulin sensitive. And the pancreas is like rushing. It's like, produce more insulin, produce more insulin. And then that glucose starts in the later stages, it starts to elevate in the blood. And that's where we get insulin resistance. So what you want to do is a couple of steps. You want to, number 1, consume adequate protein, like we talked earlier. I do think that 0.75 grams to 1 gram of protein per ideal body weight. So for instance, if you want to weigh 140 pounds, it's close to 140 grams of protein. But for the first stages, if this is overwhelming, then you can start increasing protein. So make sure that you have that you start the day with protein, healthy fats, and fiber. That's going to, number 1, keep you satiated. Number 2, you're going to stop storing all these calories as fat. So you want your food to be nutrient dense and quality food. So I do promote a program. There's a program that I promote in my stories that's going to help people when they start losing the weight. I have a referral link for that, but I just think it's a great program.
So what's that do you recommend? What's the best? Because everybody says, oh, this, that, fat, don't eat that, whatever.
Yeah, so have healthy fats like nuts and seeds and sources of omega-3s. It can be chia seeds, flax seeds. Those are going to bring in not only fat, but they're going to bring in fiber, which is what we also want, is one of my points.
Oh, so like I use coconut oil. My husband says it has an
coconut oil, coconut oil, avocado oil,
organic butter. That's my 2 go-tos. And
I recommend for weight loss efforts to cook most of your food at home and to do it as organic as possible.
Exactly.
Because number 1, they're using bad oils when you go out, and they're very inflammatory. Like it damages the cell membrane.
Yeah.
And number 2, you're gonna save on calories. It's harder to like when you go out, the calories can be high, and then if it's food that's fast food, then that's gonna make it worse. You're not gonna really be satiated. I think a lot of problems that people are having is that they're downing Coke and cookies, and that sends the wrong hormonal output. It's telling the body, like it kind of, the carbohydrates are gonna go, the refined carbohydrates are gonna go through you, all that junk food, and then you're gonna be hungrier, if you notice, like at restaurants, they do chips and that makes you hungrier.
Of
And
course.
then, you know, and then you have, if you have Coke, and if you have, even Diet Coke is horrible. If you have Diet Coke and chips and cookies, instead of starting your plate with protein. And that's my next point, that, well, you want to have, and well, first of all, before leaving the topic of protein, you want to make sure that there's 30 up to 54, a good 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal, 3 to 4 times a day, because we're trying to control that insulin spike. So you're going to have a plate full of the healthy fats, like we mentioned, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, nuts, seeds, and then you're going to have that protein. And then you're the second point that I was going to say is that if you are going to have carbs, have them either with protein, fat, and fiber, or you're going to have them last, because we want to control that insulin spike. So I understand that people, they're not going to throw everything and they're just going to eat organic and everything. If they have a carb, they're going to eat it. They should eat it last, because the protein and the fiber and the fat is going to protect, is what's going to protect and slow down the absorption of carbohydrate. We have to consider that even things like oatmeal and whole wheat grain, they're going to spike your blood sugar probably more than refined grain. So we're going to try, I always recommend, especially if you're in the early stages of weight loss, to make sure that you have like fruits with the fiber, not like a fruit juice, fruits with the fiber, and you have starchy vegetables like a sweet potato that's going to satisfy that sweet craving. We all get sweet cravings. I get sweet cravings sometimes. 95% of the time, I'm good if I incorporate something that's naturally like a fruit with the fiber that's actually harder to eat, or a starchy vegetable.
Are you or someone you know dealing with blood sugar issues like diabetes? You can lower, even reverse these issues. I lowered my A1C from 5.9 to 4.9 in just 6 weeks. My doctor was impressed. I'm a nurse, certified health coach, and educator. Gift yourself or another with this course, Taming Diabetes Differently. Change your life and theirs. Contact Ann Master at tamingdiabetes@yahoo.com or call 972-948-9976 and be sure to leave a message. Do you think sometimes people eat because I look at it, if I have the carbs, the bad food, the junk food, and my tongue feels coated, I don't taste. So I keep eating. So when I cut the junk food, because I learned too, it's not good for you. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can taste food. I could taste it.
Your taste buds adapt. And I was going to say another point. The next point is to lower your sugar intake. The less added sugars, the better. So what we want to do, and just be mindful, this is not just for weight loss. What you use for weight loss is what you're going to have to keep doing to ensure that you stay in a stable weight. So if you lower your sugar intake, you are retraining those taste buds, like you mentioned. You know, even like I ordered a salad the other day and it had a couple of peaches. I liked it. I tasted the sweetness. You're able to savor the foods better, and you're able, like, you know, it satisfies you quicker than if you were to consume all that sugar and you're numb. Your taste buds they almost go numb, and it's not even enjoyable at the end.
And I'd like to say a tip that I used on me. I like to play games as long as it's by my rules, right? So if I'm going to eat good food, that's a game I'm playing, because I am going to get away from that, and I'm going to play my game of eating good and see, you know, and if it doesn't work, then I'll go back, you know, but I found out it worked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I also mentioned increasing soluble fiber intake specifically. Now I'm going to go into more detail. It's going to be, you want to aim for 20 to 30 grams of fiber. Things like veggies, what's going to increase the fiber a lot, chia seeds, flax seeds. I just found out about basil seeds, that it has a lot of fiber. You can get it online. Yeah, it has a lot of fiber. And it's not an extra process where you have to, you know, it's just basically throwing the seeds in. If you do the flax seeds and you grind them, that's actually going to be good for your estrogen, because it's going to bind to the receptor, and it's going to help if you're having a lot of fake estrogen in your body from beauty products and things. Ground flaxseed, you buy the flaxseed and then you grind it yourself, which just takes a second, and then you put it in the fridge and you put 2 tablespoons of flaxseed. So that has a double impact. Number one, it's going to increase your fiber, it's going to increase your healthy fat, and it's going to bind to the estrogen receptors.
But years ago, they said soy, the soy products was so good for estrogen.
Yeah.
And
well, I think if you're going to do soy, I think it's good that you do it organic and that you do it non-GMO. And especially if you get fermented, that can actually be good. I know that many people are not there, but you know.
Well, I did like 3 packets of this soy stuff, and I started putting on weight. I think I threw the
really?
thing or whatever. Yeah, I think it was too much for my body. Of course, it might have been other stuff.
Some people can overdo it. I think a little bit. If you do fermented, I think it's a different story. Like soy, like natto, NATTO. Like the fermented soy is a different story. But I can see how some people think like soy is a good thing, and they do soy milk and then do soybeans. And then they do the whole diet. They're like, they think soy is the best thing.
Yeah. But
I think a good rule of thumb, well, I recommend people that if they can go into a health food store, if they're in their grocery store, try shopping around the perimeter of the store, because that's what you're going to get all the fresh food. Start looking at labels, start becoming familiar with labels. If you're going to choose a packaged food, choose wisely. I would say 95% of your food should come from the perimeter of the health food store. So we're talking about things that don't have a label: an apple, an orange, fresh veggies, a good proteins, good healthy proteins. Since you're gonna be eating 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal, and that should be a standard, because that's what's going to control the insulin. That's what's going to control the insulin from spiking. Because if you think about it, you get Coke, you get chips, that's going to spike up your insulin. It's going to go higher than 30 points.
Yeah.
And then it won't come down. And what we want is that the insulin doesn't go higher than, has to go less than 30 points. And it goes down quick. It goes down steadily and it stabilizes. If a lot of people are doing something that I think is going to lead them to diabetes, even if they're thin, if they're doing pastries and coffee, that's going to, especially first thing in the morning, like you have to do protein, healthy fats, especially in the morning, because that first meal sets the tone for the rest of the day.
And I'm guilty. I had granola this morning with coconut and some flax seeds and nuts in it, but
that's okay. If you do protein first, then, you know, if I want to say that, like, I understand that people are sometimes they're looking for the information. So if for some reason, and you know, if for some reason they have something bad, like, try to have that protein and fiber. That's why I insist on having that protein, fiber, and fat. Try to bump it up first, because then even if you have a pastry or something, then that the insulin spike is not as bad. It's not ideal, but if someone is used to their donut and everything, have it as dessert or have it last. So that way we give insulin that break. I also want to talk about something that the 5th point in controlling insulin is to consider intermittent fasting and avoid snacking. So what we want is to shorten that eating window and eat within 8 to 10 hours, maximum 12 hours, so that you give the body around 12 to 14, up to 16 hours of break. I think that's the most reasonable fasting for most people, because whatever they want to do, if they want to have breakfast early in the day, or if they want to start at noon and eat with their family at night, having a specific eating window and then not eating for 12 to 14 hours is going to give their body a break, and the body is going to start to tap into its fat stores, because a lot of people are in sugar burn. They're burning off glucose, and they never get to the fat loss
Because
stage.
they have
That's
so
why
much
many
sugar
people are
in 'em.
struggling.
Yeah. Well, the first time I started the intermittent fasting, I said, oh my God, I'm starved. Oh man, I can't make it. I can't make it. Now I can go till 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't eat that much anymore, but I do try to get my protein in.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that like to manage the insulin, and then I'll talk about cortisol a little bit, but it's a lot about timing. It's first choosing nutrient dense, high quality foods as much as possible, and then we're gonna try to eat earlier in the day, or have a shorter eating window, so that we're able to give a good 12, 14 hours of break to the body.
Right.
And then also the sixth point that I want to talk about insulin is that you want to incorporate physical activity. So after you eat, if you can, do a 10-15-minute walk. Or try to walk as much as possible during the day. Walking, I'm going to talk about that with cortisol, but it actually releases a lot of the stress hormones. Like, walking is great. I have a mentor that she used to say, protein and produce, walking and weights. Protein and produce, walking and weights. And that's really what you want to keep. That's like the cheat sheet that you want to keep in mind when you're losing the weight.
What is that again? Protein and what?
Protein and produce, walking and weights.
Double P, double W.
Yeah. And that actually, it carried me on through like the bad days. I was like, okay, I just have to do protein and produce, walking and weights. And you're going to find that a lot of the efforts, they're very repetitive, and they might seem boring, but these boring concepts are what going to really get you that lasting weight loss.
And if you make it a game, then you can play it. It makes it easier.
Exactly.
Think of it as a chore, you know?
Exactly. Involve when we're eating, we adopt the habits of the 5 people closest to us. So we want to make sure, especially people out there, that if they're engaging in this like healthy eating, they need to have community support. They need to see people that are eating healthy, they're on the same journey, because people tend to imitate the people that are next. So if they have relatives that are eating junk food, they're probably going to eat junk food.
Yeah. Back when I was single, and I had a couple of friends, and Friday night, hey, let's go out and, dinner, right? And I said, yeah, I want to get my walk first. Oh, we'll eat first and then we'll walk. No, do your walk first, because they were not real friends, it turned out. They were saboteurs. They were both heavy, and I was slender, and I worked in the factory. I came home and I worked, so I had plenty of exercise. And they were always sipping on Diet Coke. Diet Coke is the worst thing. If you're going to have one, have a real one. It's just people are listening to the marketing. They don't listen to you and I. They don't, because
we're not that popular, Anne.
No, I know, but we're healthier. We're going to outlive it.
But we're helpful. We try.
Yes.
Like, health takes effort. It's whoever says that you're gonna, like all the propaganda, all the media out there that says do this, do that, bring Coke, be cool. That doesn't happen. That's point. We both know that that's driving people to disease.
Right. And why do we want to drive them to disease? Because we have a pill, a shot, whatever.
Because it sells.
Exactly. It's easy for us because we're dumbed down, because our body isn't fed to be able to think. So we go along with this. Oh, it's like a cloudy day. Your body's in a cloudiness. And when you eat right, the sun is shining and you feel, to me, it's just like On a rainy day, you feel kind of down, and that's the junk food feel. And then when
you're
you
gonna as you make these changes, so, you know, I always say try to add as much. Like if you're not able to subtract, to take away, try adding, because if you're this is a very concept that a lot of coaches do. If you add the good stuff, then you're not going to have as much space for the bad stuff.
Right.
So it's a way to organically, so you can add chia seeds to Greek yogurt, or you can add, you know, basil seeds or flax seeds, or, you know, adding that protein, adding that veggie is going to naturally crowd out the bad stuff. You know, there are, if to continue talking about insulin, because I do want to go through the hormones. There are tricks like adding raw apple cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon to water, adding Ceylon cinnamon, adding green tea, adding some supplements like berberine for a short time can help with insulin. That's number 7. Number 8, talk to your doctor if you're on certain drugs like olanzapine, gabapentin, insulin. People that have insulin shots, they are heavy because of the insulin alone. Remember, we talked about that insulin is a fat storage hormone. So you want to talk to your doctor about alternatives, and, you know, get yourself tested, get a fasting insulin test, test your HbA1c, your fasting glucose. But that fasting insulin that a lot of doctors don't run it. You have to advocate for yourself. If it's above 5, you are in trouble. So all the habits that we talked about, it's what's going to lower that insulin. I want to go over cortisol too, because that a lot of that's that we talked about hypothyroidism, insulin resistance. We talked about the sex hormone imbalance, and we talked about chronic stress. Those are the 4 reasons that people are seeing weight loss resistance. But I really wanted to talk about the insulin first and the cortisol, which is very well related to stress. Cortisol is a hormone that goes up when, you know, to make us flee from danger. We talk about our ancestors, how they evolved. They would see danger and they would move. And the problem with us is that we're not moving, and we're seeing everything as a danger and stranger. And that your body doesn't know the difference from running from a tigress, from a work stressor. So a good cortisol is good. We do need it, but when it's high for too long, then it can create havoc in the body. And similarly, when there's burnout, there can be low cortisol. We don't want that either. We want to be able to have a certain spike in cortisol and be steady throughout. Like the cortisol spikes in the morning and then it keeps steady, and then it lowers throughout the day. So you want to be able to get the right amount of sleep. Don't skimp on sleep. 7 to 8 hours. Keep the room cool and dark. A lot of people struggle with that. You want to also, like we mentioned, the regular exercise, the walking, especially after meals. It's very beneficial. You want to be able to reduce stress any way that you can. We're not able to eliminate stress, but we can do yoga, tai chi, meditation. You're going to eat a nutritious diet with a lot of healthy fats, like we mentioned, because some of the points overlap. Very important. You want to love on yourself. A lot of people are talking negatively about their body, and that negative chatter is very, very hurtful. You cannot heal a body that you hate. The body's not broken. The body is just giving you signals that it's not in its right alignment, and that you have to love yourself into the healing process.
And number 6, don't love ourselves enough.
You can take certain supplements like quality fish oil and ashwagandha. Check with your healthcare specialist first. You want to talk to your doctor if there's any drugs like prednisone that are raising cortisol. And also, lastly, if you have fatigue and weakness, which is going to go into my the third point, which is the one of the main drivers of weight loss resistance. If you have hypothyroidism, or if you have issues with your cortisol, you want to get checked, I recommend, well, you can go to an endocrinologist, but they might not be able to run all the tests. So if you do something like, if you look into functional medicine, they have a different view. But I recommend to the endocrinologist, because that's their specialty. You know, if you have hypothyroidism. Which brings me to my next point, hypothyroidism. If you are dealing with a sluggish thyroid, everything is sluggish. So what someone wants to do is that they're gonna have a full assessment of a full thyroid panel, and it's not just TSH. Like a lot of doctors are just running TSH. TSH is produced by the pituitary gland in the brain. That is not enough. You need free T3, you need TSH, free T3, free T4. Sometimes if they're able to do it, that would be good. Reverse T3 and thyroid antibodies, TPO and TGAP. Because what you want to know when you see when someone sees an endocrinologist, and I would recommend looking into functional medicine, which is my specialty. What they want to know is if there's anything that's autoimmune related, or that's a nutrient deficiency that the T4 is not able to convert to T3, if it's stress related, or if it's inflammation related. So the thyroid is the master hormone that controls. There are thyroid receptors all throughout your body. You know, people need to understand, and I'll get to the concept of, you know, the 10 basic principles of, you know, of calorie deficit, but people need to understand that yes, you can probably do a caloric deficit and get your body to lose the weight, but if you don't do it right, you're going to yo-yo diet, and it's not going to last. And if you really run too low on calories, you are stressing that thyroid hormone out too.
Wow.
And your body is very smart. Like if someone's like probably smoking cigarettes or drinking a lot, like the body prioritizes detoxing the alcohol. The body prioritizes like, hey, we see, whoa, there's an alarm. She's smoking cigarettes. I'm gonna not give her a cycle this month or something, because the body is trying to kind of keep up with you and trying to keep you alive. So I've worked before with an RD, and I do believe that caloric deficit can be done, and you can be successful. I actually know an RD that she says that like the 3 main things that you need to do are really focusing on that protein, which I really stand by, because if you don't give the body the protein that it needs daily, then your body's going to pull it from its muscles.
Right.
So you're actually giving a lot of, if you give your body doesn't have like your body doesn't have any stores for protein. It doesn't store protein. It doesn't store micronutrients. So you have to give it to the body daily, because otherwise it's a lot of stress. So you want to have the protein intake, you want to have the fiber intake, and a lot of people advocate for a caloric deficit. I think it can work as long as you work with someone. I have a program that goes into depth on that, because for the caloric deficit, you don't want to go to just any calculator. It has to be the highest caloric deficit, that with the highest calorie intake that your body can handle, just giving it a little bit of stress so that it goes into the fat stores. So I do have a program that I'm affiliated with. I put a referral link. I only ask that they put my referral link in. And it's actually run by an RD. It's 7 weeks. and she talks about all of these concepts, and she talks about this at nauseam.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then we talked about toxins too, the sex hormone imbalance, like, you know, and going back to the diet, like it would be ideal if people would eat organic if they can, or as much
yeah.
as possible, shop the perimeter of the grocery store or the health food store.
But it's too expensive. No, it's
Yeah,
not, because you eat less because your body's fed.
exactly.
Exactly, yeah. You eat the junk and you're always hungry because your it's hungry because you don't feed it. It's working hard to get rid of what you're putting in because it's all toxic. Yeah, so
We have to consider also that the body it's going to prioritize if there's an imbalance, if there's an infection, if there's a blockage, if there's a pathogen, if there's a microbial imbalance, if there's a viral infection, bacterial infection. That's what's the body going to prioritize. So going back to that concept of safety, we want to keep the body, we want to convey to the body that it's safe to lose the weight, that it's safe to release it. And how do we do it? We lower the toxin overload.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
really putting attention what we put in our body, what we put on our body, those body creams, and a lot of, you know, there's a lot of endocrine disruptors in the women's hygiene products, what we put perfume, and we put all these products. The body doesn't really know what to do with that. So you have to understand that the adrenal glands, they're producing, we're keeping the body stressed to the max. We're not sleeping. We're not moving every time we feel stressed. Like I say, when you feel stressed, walk, because but we're designed to move. Even if it's a 10-15-minute walk, let's say you just got stressed by a work email, you after that work email, you walk 10-15 minutes, because we need to convey a sense of safety. And the body, the only way that the weight loss is going to be lasting is if we take care of the mental, emotional, physiological stress, and we remove the inflammation and whatever brings that inflammation.
Almarie, last words, because we're running out of time.
Yeah,
so,
I think I said it all. I'm glad. I think I wouldn't be able to fit it all.
We maybe need to do this on a monthly basis.
Yeah,
I think because you've got some awesome information. Do you have a link or something that people can reach you?
Yeah, it's Instagram. The Instagram handle, my Instagram handle is at Almarie Fernandez Health, ALMARIE Health. And I actually have a link to my first podcast with John, and I actually have a link of how you can work with me. And in my stories, I talk in further detail about the program that I am referring people to. It's a 7-week program by an RD. I think she does a fantastic work. I refer people to her because she just does fantastic work. I do have a referral link. I get a small commission at no extra cost to you. I do think the program is amazing. For 7 weeks, it does an amazing job.
Right.
And then once you're able to get into the program, then she simplifies things for you. And I do think that a lot of people are struggling with making that change from like junk food to whole foods, and from releasing stress. So she does a lot of work with that. And I do have tips on my page as well.
Okay. Well, any parting word?
No, I just want to say that weight gain is a sign that your body is not working the way it's supposed to, and just to keep steady, don't overstress, but keep steady on those principles, and eventually the body's going to get the message. The body's meant to be in balance, and you got to do all these little steps to keep the body in balance.
Okay. So I think we're going to do this on a monthly basis. And I want to thank you for being on the show. I knew a lot of what you said, but I still learned more. And
Yeah.
And I want to thank the audience, everybody, for listening, and contact Almarie because she's got a wealth of information and she will make you healthier. So I would like you the audience, to leave a kind review and perhaps subscribe. And I want to close with an advertisement for a company I am working with. It's called Avini Health. And it's I've been using silver for diarrhea that I've had for months, and they don't know what to do. So I started using silver. I don't have diarrhea anymore. And it's only 4 days. So anyway, that is my link for that is AVINIHEALTH.com/AnleyMaster. That's ANNLEMASTER 8084. And yeah, I'll get in touch with you as to when we do it next month. Okay.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Right.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me
Bye, Anna.
too. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to my Common Sense Living podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sure you learned something new. Please leave a kind review and share this episode with a friend. And be sure to subscribe yourself. You'll find me on iTunes, Spotify, and other platforms. And don't forget, we'll be here again next week with another insightful episode of Common Sense Living. I can hardly wait.